Welcome to Books in the Freezer, a podcast dedicated to the deliciously disturbing world of horror fiction. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today I am joined by friend, returning guest, and author Rachel Harrison to talk about horror books about time and her latest novel, Kiss, Slay, Replay. So, Rachel, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I have a little heartburn, which is Pop Tart induced heartburn. I had 2 wild berry Pop Tarts for breakfast, and I'm 36, and it's just, like, not the same as when you're having a Pop Tart when you're a kid. Like, it I'm paying for it.
Oh my gosh, that has been one of those things about getting older where I feel betrayed by things that I used to eat like nothing. Like I can't eat hot Cheetos anymore. I was like that kid in high school that was like putting down a bag of hot Cheetos and chasing it with like a Dr. Pepper.
Yep,
Just
and
like
now
eat an acid.
now, not anymore. Not without
Now
consequences.
I look at it and I like grab my chest. I'm like, "Ugh,"
Yes.
I would feel that.
Yeah, that's how I chose to start my day off that way, and so now the day is shot. I think that's the thing about getting older, where and we'll talk about consequence and time loop horror, but, like, the consequences for something as seemingly inconsequential as eating a Pop-Tart for breakfast can be catastrophic.
And it's just one of those things you don't think about in the moment, but then you get older and you have to think about them now.
Exactly. Time, the slow march of time. It's
Yeah.
cruel.
Cruel to all of us. It gets us all eventually. Well, this is your first time talking about this book because it's still early. Comes out in a bit, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We were too excited to do this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, like, get a long runway. I think we're just now shy of no, we're about 6 months out.
Okay.
Oh, today, as of today, it's March 8th,
Okay.
September 8th. I think I'm doing that math right. 6 months.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so exciting. So, can you tell our listeners a little bit about Kisley Replay?
So the book is about Willa, who is attending the wedding of her 2 best friends with, like, a group of like, they all met in college, and this wedding is kind of raw for Willa because she just recently called off her own engagement and is in the process of starting her life over while everyone else that she knows, her closest friends, are settling down. So she's really been struggling with where she's at and her choices and trying to figure out how to move forward. And she's trying to put on a brave face at this wedding, but she's having a tough time until she meets Danny, who's the groom's charming childhood best friend. And then during cocktail hour, they sneak off for some flirty alone time, and all is looking up until that time is interrupted by a masked killer,
Mm.
and horrors ensue from there on repeat.
Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to think of like the idea of being stuck in a time loop, like at a wedding where there's so many like scheduled things you have to be at. Like your time is not your own and you're expected to be at like certain events
Yeah.
and doing that every single day.
There's a definite regiment to a wedding where it's like you're expected to be here and do this, and something I think about that's not I don't address in the book, but I thought about while writing it is, like, having to get ready and, like, do your hair and makeup and all and be presentable when you're stuck in a time loop and having everybody else around you be so happy and in this great mood, which I think is part of a little bit part of gets into the deeper theme of the book where everyone else is having a wonderful time and you're like, I am stuck in a time loop of horrors, and especially just like at a wedding. I think having a bad time at a wedding is probably one of the worst, one of the worst like experiences to be like not zesty
No.
when everyone else is full of zesty jolliness.
Oh my God. Having to put on like shapewear every single day and get like event ready. Kill me.
Yeah, that's the real horror, the shapewear, the
And then
repeat shapewear.
you're gonna have to be like going after a killer.
Yes,
Oh my
and
God.
perhaps other horrors to be determined.
Yeah. Do you think you would believe me if I told you I was stuck in a time loop?
Probably, because it's you. There's people who, if they told me, I'd be like, "Sure, you're pulling my leg." But if you came to me and you said, "I am stuck in a time loop," I would be like, "How can I help? Probably we need to get somebody else involved in this because I don't know how helpful I would be." But I will say, so, um, when I had the idea for this book, I messaged you and I was like, "What other books can you think of?" And I sort of, like, told you, um, the vague concept, and you helped me and being like, "Yeah, I don't think there's, like, too much out there, and I trust your opinion so much because you're so plugged in. So this book wouldn't exist without you, so thank you."
Thank you. Yeah, 'cause the only thing I could really think of, and it's not horror at all, was Life After Life, and that's not a time loop, it's like a respawning, like, she dies, and then she's, like, born again, so you get, like, her whole life. It's not like you're living one day over and over again, which is, like, kind of a completely different thing.
Yeah, and there's some I'm glossing over some
Yeah.
nuance in the to avoid spoilers, but
Okay.
you really helped me when I pitched you the idea, encouraged me to
Oh.
write it, so
I'm just so excited to see this, like, finally coming to fruition. It's really
yeah.
exciting, and I love the idea of this time loop to kind of dig into the themes of, like, feeling stuck, because I feel like, I don't know, with social media too, and I mean, I guess when you're, like, at a wedding and physically seeing this too, like, we are just constantly comparing ourselves to, like, where our peers are, like, whether it be, like, marriage or children or professional accolades or success, like, it can just be such a tough place to be, and I feel like when you're so online, it's, like, in your face all the time too.
Yeah, you can't escape from it, and that's a lot of, what's confronted in the book is, Will is at this kind of she's in such a different place than her friends, and and it's all like a group of college they're in their early 30s now, but it's a group of college friends, and I think it's harder with, um, older friends who you've had for a long time, and you've grown up together, and it seems like they've grown in one direction, and you feel left behind. I think it exacerbates some of those feelings of isolation, and, to have to sort of put on this brave face, and at a wedding, it's not about you, like, it's about the bride and groom, and so having to, like the pressure of being like, "This is not a place where I can not be okay, and I really need to
Yeah.
not be okay," and I think there's a lot of tension there, and I think it's something everyone can relate to, of that feeling of, like, "I'm stuck, I'm sad, I'm struggling, everyone else seems to be having a great time, and I don't know how to bridge that gap
Yeah.
between where I am and where everyone else is, and if the gap can even be bridged or if it should be bridged."
And you're absolutely right. At an event where you really do have to perform, like, happiness for the sake of your friends because this is their big day.
Yeah, Willa of all my protagonists, this is my 7th book, of all my protagonists, I put her through the absolute most. I feel so bad for her. Like, everybody else, like, up and like, I think when I think of my other protagonists, like, Vesper had it pretty rough, Elise had it pretty rough, um, Julie had it very rough, and, like, Rory don't wanna turn into a werewolf, but of all of them, like, Willa really gets she just gets effed over again and again.
Oh my god.
But I think this is my favorite ending I've ever written.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I'm very happy with her arc and everything, but girl goes through it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I cannot wait to read this, but I did wanna ask, where did the time loop idea come from, though?
So, I feel like you'll appreciate this. You know the song "Always" from Blink-182?
Yeah.
Um, and there's a good music video that goes
Yeah,
along
it's like
too.
the 3.
Yeah. It came on shuffle one day when I was working out in, like, 2023, and I know because I wrote, like, a note app of the idea. So I had this idea for a time loop novel that was set at a wedding, um, but it was more of a horror romance, and the plot was really thin, and I couldn't quite grasp the emotional resonance. Like, it was about the bride and the groom, and, like, ultimately, I couldn't figure out if, like, it meant that they shouldn't end up together or that, like, they would the timing was off. And it was like a very punchy idea for a time loop horror that took place at a wedding. Um, but it didn't I couldn't like click to I like didn't know what it was about. The idea was just in the back of my head and I was thinking about it, and then the time came where I had to pitch the next novel, and I like pitched 2 ideas that my agent was like, "I don't know if those are quite right." And then I sort of came back to this and I had to ask myself like, "What's a time loop about for me?" And I don't like time loops. I don't like time travel. All of it stresses me out so badly. I was like, "What about it is so hard for me personally that I can barely watch or engage with it." And I think it's that feeling of being stuck and like the panic of feeling stuck, and not knowing how to pull myself out of that feeling. That I was like, "Oh, there it is. That's the emotional resonance." And then I sort of was thinking like, "Okay, who is going to have the worst time at a wedding?" And it's somebody who's depressed and also probably somebody who is going through a breakup, probably somebody who was about to get married and called off their engagement and has to face this like this was almost me, and what decisions did I make to make it not me? So all of that is sort of how the time loop came together and this particular iteration of the idea.
Think it was funny. I do remember you saying that a time loop stressed you out, and I think I engage with, like, time loops in, like, the complete fantasy where I'm like, "I would have so much time to read all these books." Like, I would just go into the city and try, like, a new restaurant that I've, like, never tried until, like, by the end of it, I've tried every restaurant in Pittsburgh. Like, I'm like or, like, figure out where I could go on a day trip, when in reality, I know by, like, the 3rd or 4th day, I would be having a full-blown existential crisis, and then I think having if you, like, tell anyone also, like, what's going on with you, like, you have to go through the same beats every
Every
single time,
Yeah.
that would drive me crazy. Like, if you told me you were in a time loop, I think I would believe you, but I would want you to do that cool thing where you're like, "That waitress is about to spill her coffee. The
Yes.
bull's about to come by in a blue bike, and a car is gonna honk." Like, I would need, like, the cool
The problem for me is like, okay, I don't like puzzles all that much. I don't like science. I don't like physics or math. I dissociate when I'm like when people are giving instructions in board games and explaining no matter what, no matter how badly I want to play or how much I'm trying to listen, my brain is just like, ooh, just shuts off. And so like if I'm stuck in a loop, I'm stuck in that loop forever because I'm like somebody's like, all right, this is what you have to do to get out. And my brain's just like done. Like and also, I think when you're an inherently anxious person, like, I think there's this idea, like, "You're in a time loop, no consequence, like, steal a
Yeah.
car, go for a joyride," but I'd be like, "The minute I do something wrong, that's the timeline that's gonna stick." Like, I'm gonna, like, do something I've always wanted to do and, like, go wild and then I'm gonna get arrested, and they're gonna be like, "Alright, you have to pay a $10,000 fine," and I'm gonna be like, "Haha, tomorrow I'm gonna wake up," and then I wouldn't it'd be like, "Nope, you're out of the loop now." So I just, like, know I think it and that's something I wrote in the book too, where Willa's a very anxious person, and so those, like, "The consequences don't matter, live how you want," don't really apply to her because she doesn't like she doesn't know the rules and so she's not going to do something that's going to, you know, have make big waves and then be like, "Oh, you're out now."
Thank you so much for saying that because that is always a thought I have had watching time loop movies where they're, like, stealing a car and, like, in a fun police chase. I'm like, I would be so scared that that
Yeah.
would be the time that the time loop ends. I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm like, yeah, like, what if it happens on a weekday? At what point do I stop, like, calling in sick to work and just, like,
Yeah.
bitch? Or, like, what if it's a day I have to, like, pick up my kids at, like
Yeah. We have responsibilities still. And if you don't know the rules of the loop, like how long do you wait? until
Yeah.
you mess something up. And then if you disturb the order of things, does that what how does that ripple out? And so, yeah, I think as anybody who has anxiety or who was a pleasure to have in class, I think watches time loops very differently than people who are just like, "Roll with the punches, man."
Oh, yeah. I want to be that person, but I know that could not be me. And you're right. If it involved like some type of science-y thing to get out of that loop, I am screwed. Like I think I would just kind of want to internalize that there's some like character flaw I need to fix. And this is like a cosmic lesson. And I'm just gonna like
That's in the book too, because that's exactly I'd be like, it's and I think that's like another, like, personality thing where it's like, horrible thing is happening. It must be my fault. Like, I must have done something, and I need to, like, fix my behavior and my perspective, and, like, a positive attitude will get me out of this. Like, that would be, like, not science. Obviously not.
I'll simply work harder and be better my
Yeah,
way out of this
exactly.
predicament.
I'm gonna, like, pull myself up and put a smile on my face, and we're gonna see what happens. That's another thing that's in the book that I think about so much, where it's just like, I wouldn't be like, the laws of the universe, like, something's happened, like, logical, practical. I'd be like, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me."
Yeah. Well, speaking of like time, and since I told you that I didn't know of a lot of like time loop horror books specifically. We did kind of like move this out to just kind of like stories about horror books or horror stories that play with time, like in general as a concept. So it opened it up a little more. But of course, there are a lot of movies that fall into that. But then I was worried about because some of the time loop horror movies, that's kind of a spoiler. So I'm like,
Yeah, yes.
do I want
There's
to give that
there's one
away?
that's left off the list. I think that would be spoilery, but,
Yeah,
Palm Springs was definitely an inspiration. I love that movie. I
I
think
do
it's great.
too.
It's a time loop, that takes place at a wedding. It's not horror, but, um, it's I love that movie. It's great. Great performances. It's really fun. That's a time loop that I can watch and not be like, "I'm so uncomfortable."
Well, like, all the characters go on such interesting journeys
Yeah.
too, like, I really like seeing the way the time loop, like, works through them.
Yeah. It's a very good rom-com.
But that's another one where, like, what's her name? Christina
Melody or
Milioti?
Yanni.
Yeah, like, her, like, studiousness, I'm like, "Hats off to you, girl."
Yeah.
I was also thinking of Happy Death Day, which is, like, a loud and proud time loop, horror
Yes.
movie, so not a spoiler. Uh
Yes, I will say Happy Death Day is a slasher, and I wouldn't describe Kiss Slay Replay as a slasher. So for anyone, somebody commented on my post about Kiss Slay Replay, and they're like, "So basically Happy Death Day." And I was like, "I can't refute this without spoiling my novel, but, like, no." And also, like,
That's so
there's
annoying.
a lot of room in the time loop trope, but Happy Death Day is great, and it's a very clever and well done time loop
Yeah,
horror.
it is, and I again, also like a good character journey. That's a time loop is good for like, putting their characters through the ringer,
It
especially for
really
like
is.
feelings they've been avoiding. Like in Tree's case, it's like her feelings about her mom's death and her relationship with her dad and a lot of feelings about that. Okay, I did put the butterfly effect on this list.
I was like I put, like, on our little Google Doc, I was like, "We have to talk about this," and so you've never seen it. It is a
Not
millennial
proper.
it's
Um,
a millennial staple. I've saw this movie so many times at my friend Nicole's house, in her basement. We would watch it over and over again. Young Ashton Kutcher. And it's probably I, like, need to rewatch it again because it is probably not a good movie, but when it came out when I was, like, a preteen, it was a good movie. Like, to me, I was like, "That is very well done." It's very bleak. It's one of the bleakest and there's, like, an alternate ending too that's very, very bleak. But it's just, like, such a it feels like so of that time.
mhm.
Um, it's a fun one to discuss, and it's just, like, so for like, I completely forgot that it existed until I saw it, and I was like, "Oh my god, the butterfly effect." And the actors that they cast as young Ashton Kutcher, and yeah,
Was Ali
it's
Larder in that?
Amy, what's her name? The one who from Just Friends.
Okay.
Another millennial, very millennial movie. Um,
I was saying it seems like new metal Sliding Doors.
yes.
And I rewatched Sliding Doors yesterday because I remember, like, I don't know if I would say really liked it, but I was really affected by it when I watched it as a kid because my cool Gen X cousin who I was obsessed with loved it. Uh, but if you haven't seen it, like, you're following Gwyneth Paltrow, and she gets fired from her job, and she is trying to catch the subway to go back to her apartment, and it, like, splits into 2 realities where she, like, makes the subway and one where she doesn't catch it, and the one where she makes it, she goes home and finds her boyfriend cheating on her, and the one where she doesn't make it and, like, has to take a cab, like, a bunch of stuff happens to her, she obviously doesn't catch him, they stay together, like, you just see kind of, like, the side by side of, like, the 2 timelines.
Oh my
Of, like,
gosh.
that one thing. It just reminded me of this, like, writing project we had in, like, 10th grade English where we had to, like, pitch a movie, and the movie I pitched was, like, Sliding Doors, but, like, with Stir of Echoes. And then I rewatched Sliding Doors, and I'm like, "Oh, what I wrote was just
Just sliding
just
door.
this movie." I had forgotten how much I took out of it. I'm like, "Oh, it wasn't as original as I thought. It was literally just this."
It would have been in the execution is when the originality would have come into play.
And then 2 recent ones that came out, that were direct to streaming, but I thought they were cute. One was Totally Killer with Kiernan Shipka, where she is like, it takes place in the modern day, and her mom was essentially the final girl of a killer at her high school that killed all her friends, like, she was the only one that survived, and the killer was still on the loose. And Kiernan Shipka goes out to, like, a concert on Halloween, and her mom gets murdered that night, and then she, like, gets somehow, like, stumbles into a time machine that takes her back to high school, and she's at her mom's high school while this killer is, like, running rampant. And it's, like, really fun in that it's kind of like this Gen Z girl put into, like, the 1980s, and so you do get a lot of, like, the fun generational jokes where she's like, "Why are the like, PE shorts so short? Why do we all look like Hooters waitresses?"
I did watch this on your
Oh,
recommendation, yeah, it's very, very fun.
yeah,
I
this
feel like
is
underrated.
yeah, like, it's definitely underrated. I feel like so many, like, horror movies, like, get direct to streaming, and I think they get lost in the shuffle, but I think this one is one that has had a good bit of love, and I think it's deserved, and I say that because then we had Time Cut that came to Netflix, which was a, girl who had an older sister who died before she was born, um, who was in high school in 2003, and she was murdered by, like, a slasher serial killer. And this girl, like, finds a time machine, ends up going back to 2003 to see, like, the sister she never met and, like, help solve this murder. It was fun to have, like, 2000s nostalgia, like, it opens up with, like, "What's Love" by Fat Joe, and I was like, "Bring me back."
Oh my god, yes. And also, like, I like that, but it's also disturbing to me how it's like, this one's a throwback to the '80s, and this one is a throwback to when you were in high school. And that, like, that is also a period piece.
I know, I was attacked by every song choice, I was like, "Michelle Branch."
Oh, no. Oh my gosh. The tart burn is acting up. Like, I can't.
And then, like, the older sister gives her, like, a makeover and all the outfits, I'm like, "Oh my god."
Butterfly clips
The
and
butterfly clips, the pants with, like, no back pockets, like, it did like, I think people were mad that there were some indiscrepancies. It did have me Googling, like, when did iPods come out? Like, did people have iPods in 2003? Says they did. I was like,
Okay.
"Mm."
That's I mean, I had an iPod when I was in, like, college in 2000 from 2007 to 2011. So,
Yeah.
but they got smaller. I
Yeah.
remember in high school, they get the big bricks when they first came out.
That's yeah, I had, like, the first, video one, and it was, like, chunky, and then the screen was, like, tiny, and I remember I had the 2004 Pride and Prejudice on, like, this tiny little
Oh.
but yeah, those were I don't know, I thought both cute. They both, like, had me tearing up at different points. I thought they were cute, like a time machine, go back in time, solve a slasher murder mystery stories.
Yeah, fun. Both super fun.
And then for one that made me cry, I thought of Final Girls, which isn't like time travel proper because it's like a fictional world, but I'm counting it. She goes back and sees her mom, you know?
It's this what's this? Is the one with Brittany Snow
Um,
and Malin
no,
Ackerman or no?
it is
What
Malin Ackerman. Is Brittany Snow in that? It's,
maybe I'm doing
it's
hunting
Malin
lists.
Ackerman and then, the Farmiga not Vera Farmiga, like
Oh,
the younger sis
Tysa
yeah, I think.
Tessa?
Yeah, but this
Yeah.
is about, a girl whose mom is an actress who's, like, best known for her role in this, like, old slasher, like, very Friday the 13th style slasher movie, and at the beginning of the movie, her mom dies in a car accident, and, the girl gets invited to go to, like, a special screening of her mom's movie with her friends, which is, a very loaded emotional experience, after her mom has died. And her and her group of friends end up getting, like, sucked into the world of the movie, and they do kind of, like, keep experiencing it over and over again, like, until they do the movie proper, like, until they let it go. But I think, like a Totally Killer and Time Cut, like, kind of going back in time and, like, getting a do-over with someone you thought was gone or, like, getting to say a proper goodbye. It's like, oh my gosh, this one, like, had me bawling.
I haven't seen this one. I should watch it. That sounds sweet and clever.
Yeah, it's very cute. Highly recommend.
You also have Donnie Darko on this list, which, like, again, for when I was that age, when I first saw it, when I was like 12 or 13, it was like Butterfly Effect, Donnie Darko, which is like, I obviously had the sideswept bangs. I was obviously an emo kid. Like, Donnie Darko was life changing at
Oh
that
my god.
age.
It was, and I felt so cool and superior to other people because I, like, liked it and knew about it. I also, like, was around a bunch of, like, church kids, so I was like,
Oh,
I don't think
wow.
you understand me. I watch things like Donnie Darko. You might not understand."
Don't have what it takes to be in, was it Sparkle Nation? Is that what? Yeah.
Is it, I doubt your commitment to
To
Sparkle
Sparkle
Notes
Sparkle Motion,
motion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's another good time. It messed with time in a way that I found, and I still to this day will stand by it. I think it's original. I think it's a original
Yeah,
movie.
I think so. I stand by it. I think when I first watched it, yeah, like, I liked it because of the aesthetics and, like, yeah, it was edgy for the time, and I think one of the first kind of, like, mind-bendy horror movies that seemed marketed towards, like, teens,
Yeah.
but, obviously, I was like, I'm Jenna Malone with, like, my misunderstood, like, broody guy that only I can really understand.
It's so angsty
Oh,
too,
yeah.
and Drew Barrymore's in it, like,
Yeah,
it's
Seth Rogen, like, it's got random people in it. I talked about it with Emily on the suburban horror episode because it is so filled with this, like, suburban angst and ennui and, like, the angst of being a teenager, like, on top of this, like, metaphysical time conundrum decision.
yeah, it's I again, another one I should I'm willing to bet Donnie Darko is better than Butterfly Effect, but I should rewatch both. I should have a millennial marathon, and
Yeah.
then I should go listen to, like, Saves the Day and Census Fail and just, like, double down.
I feel like they both have the same, like, color grading. They're
Oh,
both very,
yeah,
like
for sure.
everything was, like, blue and green.
I will say I think Jake Gyllenhaal is a better actor than Ashton Kutcher, and I think this
Oh,
was, like, Ashton Kutcher's, like, first serious role, so everyone was like, because he was
uh,
just, like, from That '70s Show, um,
oh,
but
yeah, I do remember that being a big deal.
yeah,
Right. Well, should we talk about some books?
we should. We were talking to before we started that They're books that we've read a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of like we're bringing them into the present
Yeah.
in this time, but we're a little rusty. So
The time horror of trying to remember details of a book you read
you
like
read when, yeah,
7 years ago.
a decade ago. Yeah.
But I'm starting this off with The Shining Girls by Lauren Bucas. And this is essentially about a serial killer who travels through time to kill women who have like a shine. So there's a man named Harper Curtis, and he starts off in Depression era Chicago, where he stumbles upon this house and then stumbles upon a key to this house. And he goes in and finds that it's full of like trinkets and knickknacks, and all of them have like women's names. And he like somehow understands that like the house wants him to hunt these women down, and so the house is this kind of like portal where he can travel through time. And so he like does that, and then he does the like serial killer thing, well he'll leave like a trinket of like either the last victim or the next victim on the body. That is until he attacks a woman named Kirby, who he thinks he killed, like he leaves for dead, but she ends up surviving the attack. And then after waiting for like 4 years, no like progress has been made on this case. She kind of decides to look into it herself, and she finds the house. And so she starts time traveling through time to like try to catch him. And like one of the trinkets on her body was like a My Little Pony figurine that like wouldn't come out for like 10 more years. Like she was killed in like the 70s, and this was like a 1980 something, like My Little Pony. Um, so I remember really liking the different snapshots we get through time. Like one of the women that's killed was like a radium girl, and that was like I remember the first time I had like really encountered that historically. But I mean also the way that like, we've always had misogyny and femicide and like, women with dreams and ambition getting murdered. And you do get to know the women in like the chapters where they get killed, and like all the promise and hope and like, the shine. It's kind of like The Shining and in kind of Doctor Sleep, in the same way that it is like these like gifted women just being like hunted down and killed for this like really pathetic man.
Yeah. The classic tale.
Yeah. But it does kind of become this like cat and mouse thing. And I did see that they did a season of this as a Apple Plus TV show with Elizabeth Moss that I haven't watched. And then I watched the trailer, and in the trailer, like every time she goes through time, like her reality has changed a little bit. Like she'll come back to her apartment and like she'll have a boyfriend, and then she'll have a dog, and like her apartment will look different. And I don't remember if that's from the book or not, but I was like, that's very interesting.
Again, the stress in my body when you said that of like the time travel, like this time travel, like messing the things up that you didn't foresee. And now how do you undo again, like I loved Back to the Future when I was a kid, but I remember asking my mom, like, "Is it okay?" And her being like, "Yes." And then he's like, "You gotta go to the future at the end." And I was like, "No." I thought it
Oh.
was gonna be fine.
Oh, no. So, yeah, that seems stressful, but then I looked at, like, Elizabeth Moss's acting. She's incredible, but just, like, the, look of, like, "Oh, I have to pretend this is okay," like, when this strange man is hugging me and, like, telling me he's my boyfriend. It's just like, "Yep, just go with it."
Yeah. How do you think you would react in that scenario?
I mean, I would be freaking out, but I mean, I guess once you've, like, experienced it, like, 2 or 3 times, you're like, "Whatever, nothing
You're
is."
just like, "Come here, honey."
"Sure, tell me about how we met. I
Yeah.
love that story."
I wanna hear you tell it.
You know I like the way you tell it the
Yeah. "Can
best.
I see your government ID, please?" "I just like your picture." John?"
So from what I remember, I would say this is a room temperature book, but I had a good time with it. Like Lauren Bucas does a lot of these like high concept, dark thrillers that I really like. So that is The Shining Girls by Lauren Bucas.
I'm curious about that one. I read, Broken Monsters, I think it's
Yeah,
called. That's a good one.
that's really good.
My first pick, The first book that I thought of was Kindred by Octavia Butler, which is a time travel novel that I think brilliantly uses the trope to confront the lasting trauma of slavery and the generational trauma that Dana, our protagonist, carries. And Dana is a 26-year-old writer living in LA. She is African American and she is married to a white man who's also a writer named Kevin. And when the novel opens, we get like a bit of a prologue, and Dana has sustained a significant injury. And there's like, it's alluded to that something has happened that other people will not believe, which I mentioned because that framing device, I think, adds another layer to the timeline of the novel, which is significant in a time travel book. So we sort of move backwards after the prologue to Dana's 26th birthday in 1976. And Dana, it's her birthday, and all of a sudden she has this dizzy spell, which transports her to another time, to Maryland in 1815, where she encounters Rufus Whalen, who's the son of a plantation owner. And then Dana comes back, but she continues to have dizzy spells. And she also meets Alice, a free woman who lives nearby this plantation. Um, and Dana continues to travel back and forth in time and understand who Rufus and Alice are to her, and sort of has to live in these in the past to figure out how it impacts her future and who these people are to her, um, and just how to exist in the antebellum South and in what ways that time is similar to her present. Um, and it's very thematically rich, but I think in this particular moment in that we are all living in, reflecting on how the past is never quite as far away as we might like to think it is, I think is very resonant. And I just think this book is the like epitome of using genre to amplify a theme. I think it's a perfect genre novel, and just a perfect novel in general. So that, and again, it's been a long time since I read it. It's very violent, but I, other than the horrors of the actual time, I don't think it is like scary. So I'd say probably room temperature. Um, but obviously dealing with some heavy themes, and that's Kindred by Octavia Butler.
Love that. Next up, I have Slade House by David Mitchell, which is about a black iron door that appears down the street from a pub every 9 years. The novel is written in like the little vignettes of like every time that it opens up. So you get like all the different years, but every single time someone will open the door and invite you in. And I think the fun part of this novel is how much everything else changes to fit every particular time. Like it's suited for every person. Like, it'll be like a rave or a tea party. But I remember having a lot of fun with that. If you are a David Mitchell head, I am not. You will see that there's a lot like connecting to like Cloud Atlas and the Bone Clocks, and there's a lot of like interwork references that completely went over my head. But if you are not a David Mitchell head, then this is still like a really kind of fun, enjoyable horror novel about a spooky haunted house that shows up every like once a decade, and like what is the supernatural force that is operating this. This was like a very atmospheric one. I remember having a lot of fun with it.
I've read this one. Again,
Yeah.
I know that I read it in 2015 because it was when I was working at Penguin Random House. And that might be the year it came out, but I remember just finding a copy. And it's a cool, like the hardcover is really
Yeah,
cool. But I remember reading this one and having a good time with it. But that's the only David Mitchell book that I've read.
same.
So I if there were references, I didn't get any of the other references.
Yeah. I just remember a lot of people talking about that, like, when it came out, like, on BookTube and stuff, and I was like, "I don't foresee myself reading, like, Cloud Atlas. That seems like a lot for me to handle, so I will take your word for it."
Yeah. I just the Cloud Atlas, maybe the book is good, but I just remember when the movie came out and just being like, "I don't know what this is." But and I shouldn't, like, God forbid, ever any my work is ever adapted in a way that I'm like, that makes somebody not wanna read the book, but, yeah, it just seemed like not my bag. Maybe it's great, but
Yeah,
yeah, not worth it didn't compel me enough to be like, "This cannot be a standalone." It works as a standalone,
it does
so
work as a standalone, and in kind of, like, these different vignettes all connecting to, like, the force behind it, I thought was really cleverly done.
yes, it's a quick read,
It is a quick
so
read. So yeah, that is Slade House by David Mitchell.
and it would you say room temp?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being like,
Yeah.
"This wasn't scary at all," but I don't remember being like I think there it has probably has some moments where I was like,
Yeah.
"Ah," but overall. My next pick is 11/22/63 by Stephen King, of course. Uh, this novel is about Jake Epping, who is a divorced high school teacher who one day goes to the local diner, that his friend Al owns and finds Al is dying of lung cancer, even though Al was totally fine the day before. And Al tells Jake, like, there's a portal in the pantry and you can go back in time. And he also tells Jake, I've been trying to stop the JFK assassination, um, because he sees that as like the root of all the current problems in America. But Al is obviously very sick and he hasn't been successful in preventing this assassination. So he sort of is like, how about you give it a try? And Jake at first is like, no, no, no. But then he's like, actually, whatever. I'm divorced. I have time. And so he starts doing this is like real divorced guy book. Turns out that no shade. Turns out that when Jake's like, get a hobby. And this is the hobby. So it turns out going back in time to stop the JFK assassination is much easier said than done, especially because what's done in the past alters the future. Book is very butterfly effect heavy. It's a very entertaining book. Again, it's been like a long time since I read it, but it's basically like yeah, the butterfly effect is a real bummer. Like, you do one thing and, it changes everything. It also has, like, a good love story in it, from what I remember, like, a really beautiful love story that's, like, again, complicated by the whole time travel, aspect of it all. And this book has the part of the trope, like the Narnia trope, where it's like, you open this door and it leads you to another world, which I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of bookish kids were opening a lot of random doors when they were when they were young, just like, "What's behind here?" And, like, it's a utility closet, like, this book, is exacerbated that experience for me when I was young, of just being like, "Maybe," and it's not like I think when you get older, you're like, "I wouldn't want a pantry to the past, but I would want a closet to paradise," you know what I mean? Um, but I don't think this book wasn't, scary, you know, very mild. It's Stephen King, but it's
Yeah.
not horror, I would say. It's sci-fi, but yeah, that is 11/22/63 by the great Stephen King.
Men will literally time
Do
travel to the past to
avoid therapy.
avoid men would rather try to
Stop the
undo
JFK
undo a
assassination than
political assassination rather than go to
then
therapy.
yes, that's the real that's the moral of this story.
Um, I love that. I contractually do have to bring up Mad Men once an episode since watching it. And it's been fun because Anna's watching it for the first time, and she got to the part where it was Roger's daughter's wedding, and she texts me, she's like, "Oh no, her wedding is 11/22/63." And I'm like, "Yeah, her whole wedding, everyone is like watching the TV."
Yeah. It's like rain on your wedding.
JFK gets shot.
Yeah, I know you guys are both watching it, and I'm like, I am due for a rewatch, but I know it's gonna consume my life, so I have to do it at a time when I'm not,
Yeah,
like,
you have to like
drafting a book because I'll be addicted to it.
it's easy to get like deep in.
The first time I ever saw it, and this is one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do, I went to the Austin Film Festival when I was a junior in college, and it was the year that Ron Howard was there, Paul Feig was there, and, Matt Weiner,
Oh,
and then,
wow.
what's Mitch, who did Arrested Development,
Yeah.
he was there too, and so it was just, like, great, great people there, and the first episode of Mad Men I saw was the lawnmower episode
Oh my god.
in the Alamo Drafthouse, like, while eating fried pickles, just like, "La, la, la," not expecting that at all, and so as soon as I saw that episode and Matt Weiner was there to, like, talk about it, and so that was my introduction to Mad Men, which is, like, the greatest introduction you could ever have, and so after that, I went back and watched the beginning of the season, but I kind of I didn't have the same experience as people watching it from the beginning because I knew that it was gonna get juicy.
Yeah. It's funny because I think that's one of the first episodes Jesse saw too, and he was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. It's weird, like, you go back to the first one, and it's a little bit like you think the show is gonna be a little bit different or not have that
Mhm.
kind of bleak sense of humor, and then you get to that episode, and you're like, "Oh, this show is, like, dark and funny."
And then the jokes Joan makes.
I know.
Joan is my favorite. So
She yeah, she was always when I was like, a young PA, like the office PA, um, I would always feel like I would, like, cosplay
oh, me
Joan
too.
Holloway.
Me too. Well, like, yeah, she was, I mean, Banana Republic had that whole Mad Men line that was like pencil skirts and like tucked in
The pen
button-up.
necklace too.
Mhm.
Great.
It was a moment in time. My final official pick is The Gone World by Tom Sweterlich. And this is like a very sci-fi book. So this is following Shannon Moss, who is with NCIS, and she is called to investigate the murder of a Navy SEALs family and their missing daughter in 1997. And while investigating this, she learns that this Navy SEAL was an astronaut aboard the USS Libra traveling through deep time. And she herself has done some time travel and suffered like physical consequences for it. Like she lost her leg. Like in this universe, like time travel like screws you up in various ways. And so she's like, okay, that definitely had something to do with this. And so through the book, you are following as she is going through like different futures to try to figure out this um to try to solve this murder. Like she's an investigator. And I think what this did really well was how realistic and how much tension there was in each of like the future timelines. And as she's going through, she discovers that there is an apocalyptic event coming, and every time she travels to another one, it seems to like get closer. So it's like they're like every time she travels, each of these futures is like really fragile. Like it is about like the balance of like the space time continuum. Um, but also paired with this like deep existential horror that like the end is coming as she's like trying to solve this like one family murder. This was a lot because it was like dark and heavy, but also like really propulsive.
It sounds amazing. I can't believe I've never heard of this one.
I don't think it's really marketed as horror is why, but it is like definitely a cosmic horror. Like I think this is more like I think you would find this in the sci-fi section before you would find it in the horror section.
I wanna give this
It's
one a
dark.
try. While you were talking, it reminded me of and I should have thought of this sooner because I did 11/22/63, but did you watch The Umbrella Academy?
Oh, yes, I did.
The The last 2 seasons, particularly the last season, was egregiously bad. But the first season, I think, was spectacular, and the
Mm,
second season, I think, was good as well, but another sort of time travel, um,
yeah.
narrative, especially the second season, um, and then the first season, what the stopping the apocalypse thing reminded me of the
Oh,
first
yeah.
season.
I
Um,
didn't even think of that, yeah.
that's a fun that's another fun time travel. It's funny because when we were like, "We're gonna do time horror," I think we were both like, "Yeah," and then when you, like, really think about it, it's sort of hard
Oh.
to it's one of those it's hard and then, you know, in a week, we're both gonna sit straight up in bed and be like, "We forgot about this thing."
Yeah, I know it's gonna happen, and I know I'm gonna post this, and people are gonna be like, "I can't believe you didn't mention blah, blah, blah," and
Be
I'm
nice to us,
sorry in
everybody.
advance, okay?
Yeah, and another like, I especially like, my picks are so, like it's not like I'm like, "Have you ever heard of Kindred?" Like, I know people are familiar. "Have you ever heard of Stephen King?" Slaughterhouse-Five, which is my next one. I know these are well known, but I think they are also worth
Mhm.
revisiting, especially with this I don't think you can talk about time horror without getting into these, but yeah, so my last pick is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, which is one of my all-time favorite novels, and I really need to prioritize a reread. I keep telling myself, like, "Ugh, I need to, like, revisit that book, I love it so much," and then, you know how it is, the reading schedule gets so crazy and then years pass, but, it has one of my favorite opening lines as well, which is, "All of this happened more or less." Genius. So if you were not required to read Slaughterhouse-Five in high school, or if it's been a while, it follows Billy Pilgrim, who believes he's been abducted by aliens from the planet Tralfama Tralfamador, and he is like a time traveler. The novel really explores Billy's time in World War II and his life afterwards, and gets into some PTSD and how our experiences impact our lives. It's weird because I don't want to spoil the book, even though I'm pretty sure everyone has read it. But if not, it's a book about aliens, time travel, death, and above all, the horrors of war. I wouldn't say I think it's eerie in some parts, but it's science fiction. I wouldn't say that it's too horrific, but another brilliant use of the, time travel trope with aliens. So,
Mm. Well,
that is
we love it. I'm glad the aliens finally got brought into the mix.
yeah, I mean, they're just, like, sitting there like, "You're gonna talk about time travel and time loops, and you're gonna leave us out of it?"
And I'm like, someone's gonna get mad, be like, "There's aliens in the Gone world." I don't remember.
Again, it's been a
It's been a long
while.
time. I did have 2 quick honorable mentions. One is My Death by Lisa Tuttle that I read recently, and I just want more people to read. It came out in the aughts, but this is about a woman who was recently widowed. She's a writer, and she's meeting with her agent, kind of pitching her next project, and she's saying, like, "I think I wanna do a biography," and I'm really interested in this, specific artist who just kind of fell off the grid. Like, she had a few paintings, and then no one really heard from her, and I heard she lives, in town in Edinburgh, like, I'll go visit her. Um, and she sees, like, one of her paintings and has a very visceral reaction to this painting and the story behind it, where she was, like, the other woman in this affair, and the guy, she was with, like, went blind during sex. Like, it was just, like, a crazy story. So she meets with this lady and starts, like, getting her life story down, and there are details that are, like, very similar to her life, like the biographer's life.
I can't believe I've never heard of this. That sounds amazing.
It's really good. Like, I feel like it's underrated.
Alright, I have to check this out.
And then I thought of The Haunting of Velkwood by Gwendolyn Keist, where it's a suburb that is essentially trapped in time, like, under the dome style, and you were following a protagonist and like her friends who like left the suburb and kind of their trauma and moved on with their lives have to like go back in and essentially like face their childhood trauma and like make peace with it. I love this book and it made me cry.
I love this book. I think it's so brilliant. This is a must read, and I think this to me this book was a freezer book for me
Yeah.
because there are some moments in the book where I was like, "Oh my god!" Like genuinely chilling, and like it's this is the king douchebag thing to say, but it's kind of hard to scare me, and like I just it's harder for me to be genuinely like frightened on the page.
Yeah.
And I was very, very scared at moments. It's not like it's more eerie than it
Yeah.
is jump scare, but I think that's really the kind of horror that gets under my skin. So I
Yeah.
this was a freezer book for me.
It is, and I feel like she really like, I feel like the word Lynchian gets thrown around a lot, and I feel like she really nailed it with this, just, like, the feeling of, like, wrongness and, like, uncanny valley of, like, going back and seeing things, like, literally as they were, and people just, like, kind of stuck in time, like, in a loop,
Yeah.
just, like, inherent wrongness.
Yeah. That and I think that's the what gets me, the little like it's very subtle but effective.
Yeah.
And it is very sad.
I remember, like, I was, like, flipping through it just for an episode and looking at little quotes I highlighted, and I cried again, and I'm like, "Why did I
Oh.
do this to myself? Re-hurt my feelings." But those are our time horror picks. That's all there is, no one else can think of any other ones. Those were all the
That's it.
canonically it.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you come for us in the comments being like, "Why didn't you do this one?" Just remember we are little bugs in a bed. That's it. We have little nightcaps on and cups of tea, and that's who you're commenting toward.
This is how your mean comment
Yeah.
found me. But yeah, like, especially with the movies too, like, there's some, like, time loop movies I didn't mention because I feel like that's a spoiler. You shouldn't know
Yeah.
that going into it.
Yeah,
But,
and I think it's fun to, like, revisit the nostalgic ones or, like,
mhm,
the like, Totally Killer, which might be a little bit have flown under the radar because it
yeah,
was direct to stream, so I mean, not to say we don't wanna hear your
yeah,
suggestions or what we've missed, just
yeah. I get what
just
you mean.
know we tried.
Let's talk about some chilling obsessions. So, Rachel, what have you been enjoying lately?
Oh. So, I'm gonna be honest with everybody, and I'm gonna be honest with myself. I have rediscovered an old guilty pleasure. Talk about traveling back in time. It's bleak, it's chilling, but it's been keeping me going. And my chilling obsession is a show called Four Weddings, which is an old TLC show from like the 2010s. And it's about four brides who don't know each other, who go to each other's weddings and talk so much shit. Whoever has the best wedding, like, wins a honeymoon, and it's ranked voting to try and prevent sabotage, which it's mildly effective. It really doesn't matter. So sometimes the brides are, like, nicer than others,
Yeah.
but it's always brutal. It's brutal, and I just wanna say I'm not proud of this. I'm not bettering myself by watching. I'm not doing any good other than, like, turning my brain all the way off to 0 and appealing directly to my shadow self. Like, this is a sacrificial offering to my shadow self, a lamb for the slaughter, and then I turn it off and I go out into the world and am patient and kind and open and empathetic. But, like, while I'm watching, I can't even watch in the light. Like, I turn off all of the lights. I watch it in the dark because it is not an activity for the light. Um, but I highly recommend it. It's streaming on HBO Max and Hulu, and, I yeah, that is my chilling obsession, and you're welcome to judge me for it,
Oh
but
my gosh.
you should watch an episode first.
Yes. No, these are so addictive. I used to be obsessed with this show when it was on, and then it was funny because a few months ago, I was like, "Wait, like, TLC shows are on HBO." And I looked it up because I remember a job I worked at, in 2014. Someone had, like, introduced me around the office, and they're like, "She was actually just on 4 Weddings." And I was, like, racking my brain to try to remember what this woman looked like because she didn't work in, like, my office area, so I only saw her face once, and I couldn't remember her name, so I watched, like, all of the Pittsburgh episodes to try to see if I could remember who this woman was, and I'm sorry to say I could not, but I did watch a lot of, like, fun Yinzer
I
content.
didn't know about the cookies. I watched
Oh,
a
yeah.
Pittsburgh episode too. I didn't know that at Pittsburgh weddings, they have, like, cookie tables where everyone
Mhm.
who knows the bride and groom bring cookies, and I was like, "I am moving to Pittsburgh and making friends with everybody."
I think it's funny because yeah, my sister got married here, like, her wedding was here, so she had a cookie table, and I think it was, like, a Great Depression, like, tradition that was started, where it's like, we all pitch in together and, like, everyone brings a dozen cookies to contribute to, like, the sweets table for this wedding. But yeah, like, a cookie table, you gotta have it. And there's,
I
like, staples that have to be there,
Yeah,
like,
there's, like, a
I'll get it.
variety. There's, like, thumbprint cookies, and, like,
Yeah.
I was watching this episode, like, that is the world I wanna live in with the cookies.
It's a very cute, like, community thing where, like,
Yeah.
everyone brings some cookies.
They got high marks for the cookie table
Yeah.
in 4 weddings. The brides couldn't hate on it's so funny, though, because some of the brides will just be like, "There's a lot of bugs," and it's, like, outside. Like
Yeah, it's really cold. I shouldn't have to wait this long for this and this, and, like, my feet hurt. I'm like,
yeah,
"You
the
take those
it
shoes."
was really windy. It's just but, like, what's like, I was watching with my husband who, like, puts up with it, and every once in a while will, like, come in with a clutch comment, but he was like, "They want a honeymoon like, this their weddings are so important to them, and they want this honeymoon, but the honeymoon is worth having this record of 3 total strangers trashing their wedding that's gonna live on forever." Like, it was worth it to them
Yeah.
to have this. And I was like, maybe they just wanted to be on TV? But, like, I can't imagine, like, having the most special, beautiful day of my life, and then knowing there's an episode of television out there where some fucking rando woman is like,
Mhm.
I actually hated the DJ." Um, but yeah, I it's like, again, I this hour of my life that I spend watching it or 45 minutes or whatever, I should be reading, I should be touching grass and smelling fresh air, but instead I'm sitting in the dark, just, like, feeding this need of, like, the worst parts of me just need to, like, gobble this up, like like I'm, again, the offering at the altar of the shadow self, but it's I don't know, I feel like hopefully I, like, feed that need, and then I can be a better person in my
Yeah.
outside life. I mean, it's and, like, if I were to try and justify it, it'd be like, "It's wedding content, and I have a book set at a wedding that I wrote, you know, over a year ago."
Still gotta
But
get in that you still gotta get in the mindset, grind set,
yeah,
for promo time,
yeah.
so
No, you know what? There's no justification. It's just a very it's base.
it's
Um,
it's fun, and I love seeing man, weddings had such a we had so many, like, different themes in the aughts and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I got married in 2013, and I was victim to the, like, mason jar, baby's breath, burlap agenda,
but,
It's
like, if it ain't broke, I like that. I think some of like, some of the yeah, definitely some of the stuff where I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I watched an episode where the bridal party came out in those sunglasses that had the slats, like Kanye West, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," that took me back, like, so
oh my
every
god.
once in a while you watch and you're like, "This is a time capsule for a time that I
Oh,
lived through."
oh
Um
my god, and I love when brides do, like, the dress with Converse, like,
Oh, yeah, a lot of them were
yeah,
do
for
and
their wedding.
they're like, "We're so edgy," and they I mean, I love that, but it's
Yeah,
just funny,
it's just
like
of a time, like, it's just
Yeah, that's my obsession. What is yours?
I told you have been in my Mad Men feelings. So I found a podcast not about Mad Men, but it's called This Is Propaganda. And it was getting into like historical propaganda, which was really interesting, and like the way it was utilized to get Americans to be more patriotic and more okay with war. Like that was one of the first episodes, but then like how that's shifted to like commercial advertising. And it was funny because one of the stories they talked about was Lucky Strike, which is like huge in Mad
Yeah.
Men, like the Lucky Strike account. But they were talking about how they were struggling to get women to smoke. And if they did smoke, it was something they did like at home that they were ashamed of. And so they, kind of one of the like people you're following in the first season is called like the master of propaganda. Like he worked with the government to like do this like patriotism push. He said to tie it to like feminism and like women's liberation, and like you're being like a man. And there was this kind of staged like feminist sit-in type of situation that was behind the scenes paid for by Lucky Strike. And it's like
Barf.
dark. I know, dark to think about. And the rest of the season is about how it's had to change to the growing generations. So with Gen X, they found that a lot of products had to pivot towards like apathy and irony to appeal to like Gen X, like disaffected, like cool nature. Like I'm not like the boomers. It was just a really interesting
And what's it
uh,
called again? I'm writing this down.
This Is Propaganda, and that was season 1, and then I just started season 2.
I'm gonna listen to an episode, and then when I'm disillusioned afterwards, I'm gonna wash it down with the 4 weddings.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like bettering myself and my understanding of the world at the expense of perhaps some cynicism, and then I'm gonna wash that down with some some cattiness, some catty fluff
Yeah.
to cleanse the palate.
Like, I listened to one episode in season 1, which was about how in Britain, like, there was kind of a social program for, like, women to shame men for not fighting in the war by giving them, like, a white feather, and it was supposed to be like, "You're a coward," but kind of like, "I believe in you, like, you can make better choices." Um, and then it was about how they discovered that like kind of the men who make the best soldiers are like sexually frustrated ones, so they would hire like good looking educated women to serve in the mess hall, but they would be like vetted to so that they wouldn't like hook up with the soldiers, and they would have these like dances for like the local soldiers and like girls in town who again were vetted, and it was like a very controlled environment where like nothing would happen and they would just get like sent home.
Is it bad that I'm like, "I would have been good at that job?" Just be like, "Move it along." They're like, Here's your job."
Be
Y
flirty, like, give a
Yeah,
little wink and
you
like
use your wit, give them a wink, and send them home. I would have been like, "You know what? I am very qualified for this." Like, I would have enjoyed that job.
I
I'd have
know.
been like, "All right, see you tomorrow." And when they, pouted about it, I'd go, "Go
And
home."
what? And what?
I find psychology so interesting, and then when you find out about, like, manipulation, it's just like, ugh, just like, "I don't trust any of you motherfuckers." Like,
That's so funny.
it's helpful to know some of this stuff to, like, have that kind of perspective of being, like, and that context, um, but it just makes you wary of everything,
Yeah.
of, like, you know, like, then I'm gonna, like, go to get a coffee, and I'm gonna be like, or a matcha, and be like, "Do I like matcha, or is it just because everybody else likes matcha, and it's everywhere, and matcha's cool, and and how am I being manipulated?" And this is how I'm gonna end up in a shack with, like,
You're gonna be like, "Everything I like is because I like it."
I know. That this is my Howard Hughes late Howard Hughes life origin story where they're like, "Where's Rachel?" Just, you know, leaving jars outside the door. Just
Uh, well, should we talk about our final girl songs to bring the mood up a little bit?
yeah. For the record, I'm just being silly. Um, I'm in the face of everything we have going on, a little silliness and whimsy. On that topic, my final girls song is "Tub Thumping" by Chumbawamba, which was a big inspiration while I was writing Kiss They Replay, because I think ultimately the book for me is about figuring out how to move forward and um, how to get up again when you've been knocked down, and finding some resolve when you feel when you're when you're depressed, being able to get to a point like when you feel like you can't get out of bed in the morning or can't find any faith or hope, that moment where you just get your feet on the floor, I think is the biggest thing, and the most beautiful thing in the world. So even though, again, it's a silly song, it's a fun song. And I think the book is fun. And I think that, like, that refrain of nothing is going to keep you down can be very useful in bleak times.
Absolutely. It's funny because I didn't even take a moment to think about the lyrics at all when I saw that you put this. I was just like, "Oh, fun, like, kind of wedding jam," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I get knocked out and I get up
Gonna
again."
be, yeah.
Like, perfect. You know what? When they make a movie out of this, I hope there is, like, one unhinged trailer with just like that.
Yeah. And I kind of leaned into it, like, Willa's, like, the guy that she flirts with, his name is Danny. And, yeah, and they're definitely pissing the night away. So,
We love it.
yeah.
Alright. Well, Rachel, thank you for coming on here and talking time horror with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and, um, yeah, it was good to be back, and hopefully I'll be back again
Yeah.
in the loop
You're gonna wake up tomorrow and we're gonna do this all over
all over
again.
again. And you know what? I wouldn't mind. Wouldn't mind at all.
Aw. Books in the Freezer is a bi-weekly podcast. We post episodes every other Tuesday. You can find us on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Books in the Freezer. If you would like to support the podcast, I suggest becoming a member of our Patreon community at patreon.com/booksinthefreezer, where there are 3 tiers of support where you get all kinds of perks like getting episodes early and ad-free, newsletter, bonus episodes, polls, things like that. All of that is available at patreon.com/booksinthefreezer. If you would like to show your support for Books in the Freezer without spending any money, there are also a lot of ways to do that, including posting about the show on social media, interacting with episodes, commenting on Spotify, rating on platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. All of that is huge to indie shows like this. It helps us gain visibility and find new listeners. So thank you to all of you who have taken the time to do that. I am Stephanie Gagne. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time on Books in the Freezer.